Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to our lunchtime session on the benefits of passive house design. Thank you for joining me here, me and the team. And today we want to look a little bit into what makes passive house so special and so worthwhile. So please follow me on this one. Now, just a little word up front. So this is a two-part series. So benefits of passive house design has two parts to it. So if you are interested after this session and you want to see or listen to the second part, so the second part live, we're going to do in a fortnight. But if you can't wait, we have this course actually on our website as a free course. So you can join the second part and listen to it online. Just go to our website. I'll show you that in a second as well after the presentation where you can find that. Okay, so I would say let's hop right into it. Good. So I think you can see my screen now. So let us start with talking a little bit about benefits of passive house design and what makes this so special and so worthwhile. So this is what we're here for today. The agenda today is we're looking in our first unit. This is the one that I'm doing today, Introduction into Smart Plus Academy, a short one. And then I explain to you the passive house standard. So the first step in understanding passive house is always looking into the standard and what passive house actually means. And then in our second unit, which will be live in a fortnight or on our platform, is more benefits. So what are the benefits to you as a passive house designer? We'll talk a little bit about the passive house community and how does it benefit you? Why do you want to become certified and become a passive house designer? So let's jump into the introduction into Smart Plus Academy. So our motto is we want to make our world a better place. And why we do what we do is we want to empower people to make a difference. Yeah, so we want to make a difference, but we want you, everyone, to be able to make a difference as well. What we do is we're on a mission to decarbonize the building industry. And how we do it is we inspire and lead with passion and love. So you will hopefully see throughout this course, throughout all the courses that are available online, or if you join any other courses with us, that this is more than a job for us. We are in it with all our hearts. We are really living and breathing passive house, and this is our passion. We're on a mission to make passive house education accessible for everyone. So we've got courses online and at your own pace, so that it's really possible to do the courses in your own time, at your own timetable. So why are we here? We're here because we care, and because we want you to design healthy buildings that are sustainable and affordable. So this is what Passive House is doing. This is what we can cover with Passive House, and that's the beauty of it. We're doing something good for the environment, but at the same time, we're now creating healthy and comfortable buildings for our clients. There may be a little bit of confusion on how to do this because we're hearing so much these days on sustainability and green buildings and all these different things, zero energy buildings, that we probably don't know exactly where we stand. And this course and all the courses that we're offering at Smart Plus Academy are here to empower you and entangle all that information you have on high-performing buildings. So before the course, you're probably at the point where you want to design and construct sustainable buildings, but you're not really sure how to do that. You're also not sure if it's financially feasible. So you may have come across people that are skeptical on the costs. They say, oh yeah, it's great concept, but we have to pay more. So we will learn that passive house doesn't have to cost more. Okay, so I'll explain to you how that can work. And you might not be really sure where to start. Okay, it can be overwhelming. It can be a little bit much, all that information coming at you. So this might be your situation. And after the course with us, you know how to design and construct sustainable buildings, and you will understand that health is a really big driver for this. Okay, so health is a really big concern for everyone. We've just been through a big pandemic. People are more conscious of their health and how important it is. So you will understand that that is a really good also to pitch to your client. I'm building you a healthy home, not just sustainable, but it's healthy as well. And you can see that it works financially. So we've got a lot of information on finance available in our courses, and you will be inspired and you want to act now. So you won't look at buildings the same anymore. That is really true. So you will go through the streets, you will look at the current projects that you have, and you will look at it a different way and think how you can improve it. So already here, what could be the next step for you? So if you already have some previous knowledge on Passivhaus, you need a training to get the certification if that's what you're looking for. If you're only here for just getting some basic information, that's fine as well. You can just listen to me in these basic courses, the benefits of Passivhaus. We've got other courses there as well. What is Passivhaus design? They are more basic courses, but if you're interested and you're ready, then you could jump onto our certification courses straight away. It's a self-paced course that is structured but flexible, so you can work at after your own timetable, and you can contact our team if you're interested in that. But otherwise, just listen the basics that we're teaching here today. So today I want to introduce you a little bit to the Passivhaus standard and what it is. So that's our first step in understanding what Passivhaus is doing. And for that, I want to present to you Passivhaus in 30 seconds. And this is an interesting one because this really summarizes the core essence principles of Passivhaus. So what is Passivhaus doing? We're building healthy, sustainable, and affordable buildings. And while the outdoor environment is changing constantly, the indoor environment stays consistent at 20 to 25 degrees. So we are separating our indoor environment from the outdoor environment and making it controllable. That is the basic of what Passivhaus is doing. How we're doing that? We are creating a high-performance building envelope. We are providing fresh air 24/7 to the indoor environment, and we're making use of the free energy harvesting and heat recovery. Okay, so that's everything in a nutshell. Obviously, there's more to it. There's more background. There's a lot of details to how we do that, and that you can all learn in our further courses. Now, what is the Passivhaus standard? What is it saying? Okay, so the Passivhaus standard is a very simple and clear way to clarify how much energy your building needs for heating or cooling. That's what it's saying. Okay, so Passivhaus is prescribing to you, this is how much energy you're allowed to use for your heating and cooling. And it describes that it's an X amount of energy per square meter per year at your location. Okay, now the question is, what is that X amount? And this is what is prescribed or defined in the Passivhaus standard. And they're saying we're allowed to use 15 kilowatt hours per square meter a year. That's defined in the standard. That equals, to put a little bit of a picture to that, because it's that 15 kilowatt hours probably doesn't mean much to you. This equals 1.5 liter per square meter per year of diesel, like of a diesel fuel. If you would use that diesel to power your heating device for your home, which could be true, but probably not many of us do, but just to put a picture in your head, this is the amount of fuel that you would need to power your home. Now let's have a look at an example, because that makes it even clearer. So if we had a 200 square meter home, we would need 200 times 1.5 liter of diesel. Yeah, because this 1.5 liter was a per square meter rate. So it means 300 liter of diesel per year to heat your home. And that means 5 times filling your car tank. Okay, so this doesn't sound that much, right? So you'd probably fill your car tank 5 times easily in, I don't know, a couple of months. Yeah, so, and this is the whole energy that you're using to heat your home with this 300 liter of diesel when you have a 200 square meter home. So we have to say that as well. And also, this is true for any location. Okay, so this is true for if you live in Hobart, in Siberia, in Canada, or in Sydney or in Perth. It's always the same amount that we're allowed to use. It's not location specific. So this is true for any location in the world. The thing that changes is the thickness of your protection layer in your thermal envelope. So you would, in a harsher climate, obviously you had a thicker protection layer, so a thicker thermal buildup, thicker insulation. And in a milder climate, you would get away with a thinner buildup. That's what changes. The amount of energy we're allowed to use always stays the same. We're also allowed to use the same amount of energy for cooling. And that is, as I just explained, despite our location or climate. Now I want to go into why Passivhaus is not a zero energy building and what the differences are. So in the passive house, as I've just explained it, we have a heating demand. So we're allowed to use this amount of energy, the 15 kilowatt hours per square meter a year. Or we have a second standard here, that's our heating load at 10 watts per square meter. I don't want to go too deep into that because that's already quite technical here, but just so that you see the whole standard in front of you and that you will learn deeper, obviously, the further you go into the passive house knowledge. We have the same amount here allowed for our cooling, 15 kilowatt hours per square meter a year. Or if we're deciding that we're not using a cooling system, so this comes from when you are living in a cooler climate, you may not need a cooling system, an active cooling system. And then they're saying in a passive house, we're allowed to have a little bit of overheating over 25 degrees. So our house is allowed to go to 26 or 27 degrees. So a little bit warmer inside. So that's what passive house allows. Then we have other requirements that, again, I'm not going to go too deep into today because it's a bit technical. We have a primary energy demand and a primary energy renewable demand. So this is our rules for passive house, but they're different. So we're saying we're allowed to use some energy, and we're not a zero energy building, because zero energy buildings are not really defined. They're not really telling us exactly what it means to be a zero energy building. It's not regulated. So the question is a zero energy building now not conditioned? Is it zero on paper? Or is it a complete zero consumption home? Or a real zero over the lifetime? Because there's different things we could look at. We could look at only the energy usage. Is that zero? Is it zero with including our embodied energy? So there's so many things we could look at, and this is not really regulated. So it's not really clear what we mean when we're saying zero energy buildings. And passive house is now defining the amount of energy we're allowed to use. The beauty of that is, or why passive house has done that is, if we are allowing a little bit of energy, it makes passive house more affordable. Yeah, we can bring the energy usage further down. But that means we need even thicker buildups. We need better windows, better products, and that makes our homes more expensive. And passive house is saying, if we're bringing it to a certain standard that's very efficient, but we're allowing a little bit of energy to heat and cool, then we can make these homes affordable. And that was the background why passive house still allows a certain amount of energy for our buildings. So that's really important as a background into passive house, why it's not a zero energy building. Passive house also has a very clear outcome. The outcome is that we want an indoor environment at 20 to 25 degrees. We are creating homes with a good indoor air quality. We have a comfortable indoor environment. So there's some rules that make sure that we are comfortable in our indoor environment, that we have no health risks and no mold growth. Okay, really, really important these days. Mold is such a bad thing. There's so many health impacts that we can have from mold exposure, that a mold-free home is really something that you probably want for your client and for yourself. So what we're always saying is passive house buildings are normal buildings built better. So it's not rocket science. If we are following those rules, then we can build a perfect building, and it's not so different to what we normally do. We're just building it a bit better. So what are the passive house other requirements? So we've learned about the energy, but what are the other requirements? So passive house requires us to build for a comfort zone of 20 to 25 degrees. We've heard that already now. But for our comfort, it's also important to look at a relative humidity levels. So how much moisture is on our air. And we're saying here 30 to 60%. That's the ideal range, which translates to an absolute humidity of less than 12 grams per kilogram at 25 degrees. We want to have a minimum temperature of 12.6 degrees at any point in our building. Now that relates again to mold formation, because mold forms on cold surfaces. So we don't want to have any of these mold risks in our building. That's why passive house is limiting that temperature. We want to have a temperature difference of less than 4.2 Kelvin between our air temperature and our surface temperatures. That means that we're limiting the risk of drafts. So you've probably sat next to a cold window, single glazed window, where you could really feel that draft of air coming onto you, really uncomfortable. That comes from a too big a temperature difference between the surface and the air. And that's what we're also limiting in passive house, so that we're nice and comfortable. We also want to have not such a big temperature difference between our feet and our head in a seated position, because that gives you that cold feet, hot head sensation that we also want to avoid. And then we want to have a supply air. So we are supplying fresh air into our building via a mechanical ventilation system of at least 30 cubic meters per person and per hour. So that's what Passivhaus is doing to create that healthy and comfortable indoor environment. So what do we achieve with this? We're achieving healthy homes, so mold-free indoor environments with a low CO2 concentration. So we're saying that below 1,000 parts per million is healthy indoor air. And we have now a reduced risk of respiratory diseases. So with a good air quality, the right amount of relative humidity and no mold, we're really seeing a reduced respiratory diseases, reduced asthma rates in passive houses. And allergies are so much lower as well. Then we're creating a comfortable environment. So we have consistent indoor temperature and relative humidity. We have no drafts and it feels really nice and comfortable, no cold surfaces. So we can sit like this lady in front of our window, even in winter when it snows outside, and we wouldn't feel a cold draft there. And we're creating energy efficient homes that use up to 90% less heating and cooling energy. And we save on the power bills and we help fight against climate change. So this is the beauty of it. We're doing something good for the environment while gaining health and comfort. Now, for all sort of designers, architects out there, I need to say that Passivhaus is a design approach. So it's not just a standard, it's a design approach, because what we can do now, and the beauty of that is we can quantify our energy saving measures. So Passivhaus tells us how good your design is from an energy efficiency perspective, and it quantifies your measures to make the building more energy efficient. So there's this program out there that's PHPP, the Passivhaus Planning Package. We are calculating the energy usage of our building. And in that process, it tells us which part performs how well in our build-up. So we can find out our walls are performing really well, but maybe the windows need a bit more work. So they're losing us a lot of energy. So we can replace them with a better part and make it really also economically optimized. And that's our next point. We can optimize it economically because we can now able to quantify how much a certain measure is helping us. We can now make a decision on our economical benefit. So for example, how much does it help us to increase the eaves? How much does it help us to make my installations thicker or to put insulation under the slab? It helps you to make the decision between double and triple glazing. So all of these things can now be economically evaluated as well. You can also compare product 1 versus product 2. You can put in product 1 and see how much energy it saves you in product 2, and then you can make an informed decision which product is the better one for your project. Or you can find out how much this product creates a return on investment. So if you become certified Passivhaus designer, you will learn even how to calculate that. So it's a really interesting part of Passivhaus, goes really deep into the economics as well. And that should be applied to any design or building. So ideally, you don't just apply this to Passivhaus, but to any building that you do. So PHPP, that calculation tool, could also help you on your buildings that you're working on now, not just when they are Passivhaus. The other thing I want to mention is that Passivhaus, the word Passivhaus might be misleading because the word house is often sort of attributed to residential buildings. But where it comes from, Passivhaus in German means it could be any building. So Passivhaus is a standard for any building. It could be a tiny house or a high-rise building. So all of these have been done already. This is off-grid in Italy, tiny home, 30 square meters only, built to Passivhaus standard, or big high-rise dormitory, also built to the Passivhaus standard. So all of that is possible. It's even easier to achieve Passivhaus for bigger buildings because we have less building envelope to the amount of volume that we have. So it's easier to achieve the Passivhaus standard. And in Europe, Passivhaus developers win the big projects because they're most cost effective. They have all their systems down pat. They know what to do. And that's typical for Passivhaus developments. You sort of develop your details, you know your strategies, and you can apply them to the next project, and that makes you more cost effective as well. We've also seen whole cities out of Passivhaus now. So Passivhaus is starting to be applied for all that town and city planning, residential, hostels, hotels, kindergartens, all of that. And we have here in China, they're really big at the moment. They've built lots of square meters of Passivhaus, 1.2 million, and a little town in Germany as well that was there before in Heidelberg. So a whole little township that's made from Passivhaus. So as a summary, Passivhaus is really comfort with a clear conscience. So we're creating comfortable and healthy buildings, but we can have that clear conscience because we're doing something good for our environment. And as a reminder, passive houses are normal buildings built better. The additional investment is not that much. So as I said, passive house doesn't have to cost more. So the additional investment in Australia, we found out through looking through some projects, is about 250 to 750 per square meter more, but it can be brought down. Now there are incentives out there, government incentives, incentives from bank, green loans and things like that. So that can be brought even further down. At this point, we said that it's about 5 to 20% more of additional cost on residential buildings. But as I said, there's now so many incentives that it can make it even equal with the cost of a conventional building. And for commercial, it can be even less because we have bigger buildings. We're already spending more money. And so those extra measures don't add up for so much. So even as little as 1% or 0. And that really makes clear why passive house makes so much sense. Thank you very much. That was our first part of the benefits of passive house design. So thank you so much for attending this and for your engagement with us. Then for all of you out there in the social media on Facebook, I hope you enjoyed our little introduction into the benefits of passive house design. Before I let you go, I want to show you. So if you are now interested in passive house and if you find that really interesting, there's a second part to this where I show you a few more benefits of passive house design. If you want to join that live, that'll be in a fortnight. So it's on the 12th of October, same time. So you can join us for this live online. Or if you can't wait, then you have the opportunity to jump onto our website. I'll show you that here now. So this is our website, smartbuildacademy.com. You can go to all courses. And then here in this tab, you go for designers. And then if you scroll down, you will find there the benefits of passive house design. Okay, so this is the course, it's free. And in here you find the unit 1, that's the one that you've heard just now. So this one's completed and you can jump straight away on the benefit of passive house design unit 2. So where I'll go into a few more benefits for you, especially when you're a designer or an architect. I will explain a little bit what the real benefits are when you go into the passive house direction. Good. Then thank you very much for joining me and I will see you in a fortnight. Thank you.